Hi friends. We are back to another session of Soaring Through Chaos. And it's always a joy to be able to share my friends and people I know with you. It's always interesting, given the challenges that we are all facing, to talk about what makes meaning, what makes sense. And many of us have had to make fine tuning and changes to our life to find meaning. These are difficult times. There's the pandemic, there's the fear of health, there's the fear of economic distress, and the divisiveness that all comes together. But amid all this, I run into people such as Jubin Mehta. I had like 70 common friends with him. That's what social media said. But then again, a friend insisted, Dr. Amrita Arvind, who is a therapist and clinical psychologist in Gujarat, she said, "You've got to talk to Jubin." I said, "Why not talk to you?" She said, "I'm just a therapist. Jubin is living, has made changes to his life that seem to be very meaningful." So, Jubin, tell us about you. I'm curious to learn about you now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shankar. Thank you so much for this introduction, and really love what you are doing with these series of talks. So yes, me. So as I say, my name is Jubin, and I grew up in a small town, Baroda in Gujarat, and then the last 7 years I've been in a small village near in Himachal Pradesh. I was earlier in Dharamsala for 5 years, and currently I'm in a place called Bir. And yeah, a lot of so to say interesting life experiences kind of brought me here. I was earlier in Bangalore working in the startup industry, and I'm still associated with it in some ways. Um, but yeah, so I studied engineering. I was with Tata Motors very briefly in Pune, and yeah, then I had my passion in writing. I ever since my school days, actually school, college, I used to write little diaries and contribute to the college magazine and things like that. So I always was very that was my, so to say, creative expression. And like very soon I realized that that is what I want to carry on doing. So yeah, that's what led me to this small company at that time called Your Story. This is a Bangalore based media company writing about all things positive across India.
And I love the
So I
stories.
joined
I've
it.
read several stories. I've read several stories
Yeah,
from your story. Yeah.
yeah. So I was the second employee at Your Story, uh,
Wow.
and yeah. So I saw it started beautifully as a very small team of 3 or 4 people, started by Shraddha Sharma, and then saw it grow very rapidly as well. It kind of veered towards, it started out as a more broader platform, writing about all positive stories, but slowly it veered towards uh, equals like technology stories, because we were in the times when Flipkart and Redbus and all these guys were just starting out in India. So that took me in a sort of a technology driven journalism area. And this was a time when actually at like a very, so this was very high paced life in Bangalore, like the Silicon Valley of India, and you were seeing all these instant delivery apps and all of these things starting to bubble up. So during this time I got a very because we were working 16 hours a day. I was hiring people much more senior to me, and I hit a burnout very soon. So this was around 2013, 12, 13, when uh, these very strong question came, as in like, is this what we are supposed to do? And so that uh, question and just the way of life, that is this why we are all here? So that started bugging me a lot, and that was like a turning point for me in some areas. And I had come to Himachal for a 2 week sabbatical as a 2 week break, and those 2 weeks have now like become almost 8 years.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah, that's an generic overview. And then here I am involved in a lot of things. Uh, do very small scale. I love farming, so do a little bit of that, help out the locals. So yeah, and we run a small place called Ashram.space. This was started a couple of years ago, and the intention is primarily to uh, host people who want to spend contemplative time in the mountains. And so people come for like 2 weeks to a month and work on their book, work on some music, work on their yoga practice, whatever they choose to do. It's a self-guided place. And yeah, that's what has been keeping me busy in Himachal last 2 years. But yeah, due to the pandemic, we are not operational currently. But yeah, so that has, so to say, been my journey, and a lot of explorations in uh, meditation and eco-architecture. And yeah.
It's interesting because I'm a big fan of taking breaks. I lived the Silicon Valley life in San Francisco Bay Area for more than 25 years. I went through a few burnouts, not just one. And so coming to Rishikesh, Dharamsala, Siddhabari, which where Palanpur, very
Ah,
much in the vicinity where you are, right?
yeah.
So I'm a big
Siddhabari
fan
is
of
where I
those
lived
things.
for 5 years.
Sorry?
Siddhabari is where I lived for 5 years.
Oh, you lived in Siddhabari for 5 years, and then this
Yes,
one, which is where the Chinmay Mission headquarters is.
yes,
And I was a
yes, yes. Very
teacher.
close to that.
I was a teacher with Chinmay Mission San Jose in San Francisco Bay Area, exploring the meaning of the epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, allowing children to debate on these things, letting them have fun with it. So I would actually make them debate or play games with Mahabharata and even elements of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's why I came to visit
Wow.
Siddhabari. It's a beautiful place. So my
Yeah,
question to you is, during the pandemic, I would have thought this is the best place for people to take a break. And you're saying actually you're shut
yeah,
down now. What's the reason for that? It's easy to maintain social distance in the mountains, isn't it?
yeah. It is. So the thing is, like Himachal per se, where we are, yeah, it's a great time to take breaks and people can come. But Himachal, as a like the locals want to stay closed right now. So the state and center wants to open up, and there are people can come in, but there is a lot of resistance from the locals, and validly to some point, because the healthcare infrastructure and all of that is not in order at all. So uh, and tourism is, so to say, and even spiritual tourism or people coming in for any purpose, that is an additional income. It's not something that their lives kind of rely on. So they want to keep it closed at least till March of next year. And so there are ways of coming in, and if people want to come, so there are actually a couple of friends who just moved in yesterday from Bangalore. So if people want to come like lock, stock, and barrel, then it's still very much possible. But like coming in for 2 weeks or 1 week, then it's still we are looking at least a year before that starts happening.
So not the Airbnb short term, but now the long term come
Yeah.
and live there. Okay, that makes a lot of
Yes.
sense. That makes a lot of sense. In
Yeah.
fact, I've considered doing that. I've been downscaling forever from the big city, Bombay to Baroda. One of these days I will, because I visited a lot of these mountain places, Panchmadi and many
Yeah.
others. And it's very tempting, I must say. But you went from Baroda, which at one time was a small village-like town. Now, believe it or not, the
Yeah.
Baroda metro is 20 lakh or 2 million people. So
Wow.
Surat is even much
Yeah.
bigger with like 5 million people, and Ahmedabad is approaching 10 million or 1 crore. So, yeah, these cities have grown like crazy. Do you think, do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see with the pandemic and how it has spread to the big cities, the metros, do you feel that it is realistic now for people to consider going and living in smaller towns and villages? How has your experience been moving from the hustle and bustle of Bangalore, one of the top 10 cities in India, to a small
Yeah.
village, initially Dharamsala, then Siddhabari, and now Bir, which is really rural, right? How has that
Yeah.
downsizing or going to a smaller place been for you?
Yeah. So for me, it has kind of gelled really well, and it has helped me in my personal journey. I've seen a lot of friends also trying to move in, but it's a very, very personal choice that I've seen, because a lot of people from the big cities wanting to move in here still want the city lifestyle, and that's absolutely not possible, because it's entirely a different way of living. There is no delivery of things here of any kind. You have to walk a kilometer to get your supplies, very, very basic things. So life really slows down. So uh, for me, I actually didn't move with an intention of moving. I just came for 2 weeks as a break ki jaake, as in I just want to not look at the computer for some time. So let me just go and be without the phone. And yeah, and then I met some people. Then I signed up for a Vipassana course, and uh, those explorations basically changed my outlook, and this some internal discomfort that I was having from a long time, all these questions, they started finding some sort of an, not an answer, but some sort of a satisfaction. Ki, yes, this is the direction where I want to move. And for me, like a smaller place, earlier there was a lot of there is also a honeymoon period to the mountains, and you look at them, and like first couple of years there are no questions, but then you realize like it's still the same. You face yourself everywhere, either you're in a big city or here, you'll still have to face the same questions. So the place doesn't really change a lot, but yeah, it's conducive to some point, and if I have a choice, I would prefer to stay in a smaller place. But at the core of it, yeah, it, like right now I feel that it doesn't really change anything.
That's true,
Yeah,
I experimented with that in San Francisco. There are pockets in the redwood forest. So my wife and I lived in
yeah.
a redwood forest. I lived for 4 years, and
Wow. Redwood forest
I
are those huge trees, right?
yes, yes. So I lived in a redwood grove actually. I bought a piece of land and with a small house on it, and lived on 5.5 acres like a monk. I had longer hair,
Wow.
and I just cut my hair off recently, accidentally
When
off.
was this?
Uh, that was 2013 to 2017 in a redwood
Okay.
forest, not far from Stanford, half an hour drive to Stanford. So in theory, yeah, we could be at Facebook or Google headquarters within an hour.
Hmm.
It wasn't far, but the internet connectivity is slower in the mountains. So we were getting 2
Yeah.
megabits per second, whereas in the valley you get 100 megabits per second. Uh, so
Yeah.
you had to go up and down the hill up to 2000 feet. So to even get cilantro or curry leaves, you have to go up and down for half an hour. So even this, so like to meet people, which see, it's funny, I'm the extrovert, so I meet people everywhere. So it was my respite. I would go home and like, I'm happy now. For 2, 3 days, I wouldn't leave. I'm just happy writing or meditating. But for my wife,
Nice.
she's an introvert, but she likes to be with people. And there were no people. The nearest person, I'd have to go up and down 2 hills if I were walking. My nearest neighbor was 2 hills away, literally about, I could see him, but again, I would see like a tiny little dot because the distance was probably, I don't know, 1,000 feet, much more than that. And literally had to go up and down. So I got used to it. I got used to it and I miss it. So I guess you got used to it, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now, yeah, completely used to it, and yeah, this was my preferred way of being. So,
So I have a question about that because I had some crazy and interesting experiences living in the woods. So initially, I
hmm,
started talking to the redwoods. These are like, as you mentioned, a few hundred to a few thousand years old sometimes, like few hundred for sure. I started
hmm.
talking to them, and then I started listening to them, and also to the wild animals. We had all kinds of wild animals right there in our yard. Have you done
Yeah.
that? Have you experienced going beyond the human realm into communicating or listening to birds and plants and animals?
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, it's the interconnectivity is really beautiful with nature, as in like you, I sit by the stream for hours, and it's the distinction between where your personal identity is and where the stream is flowing. It kind of merges into one. If you are sitting amidst all the trees and nature. And so I think for me that communication is where like I lose my sense of personhood or identity, that Jubin is so and so and does so and so, and like everything when kind of becomes synergetically one. I don't know if that's a word, synergetically, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so I do a lot of trekking as well. So I have had very beautiful, intense experiences at mountain passes. So at 4,000 meters, so the Dauladhar range is over here. Uh, they are in like the Dauladhar ranges separates the Kangra Valley and the Chamba Valley, and they're like around 25 mountain passes, and they're all above 4,000 meters, so 17,000 feet. And yeah, so you can cross over them in 2-3 day hikes. So I've been on several of them, and just the sheer intensity, the vastness of uh, nature, or the oneness of it all is just so magical, so beautiful. It really talks to you, and yeah, it makes, so to say, like marvel at the beauty of life.
Yeah, yeah, I remember my first encounter to your neck of the woods was Manali, but that was
Yeah.
1982. And I went up
Oh wow.
the Western Himalayan Institute of
I wasn't
Mountaineering.
even born then.
I went up
Mhm.
to 19,700 feet, Friendship Peak, if you know that place. I think it's on the Kangra. Basically, Kulu Manali are the towns, or now they become more like towns, but up the hill
Yeah.
when you get, it's completely isolated and beautiful. So do you have pictures from your neighborhood? I would love to see if you have any pictures, videos, anything like that, because it's
Yeah, yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. I will share them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now we are looking at your phone and some other pictures and videos in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I can play this.
Is this the
This is
Bias?
the So this is the stream that I go to every day in the evening to either take a dip or just sit by.
Wow, is this the Bias River?
No, this is a mountain stream, a small. It's not really a river. They call it khad in the local language, and
That's
it it would meet into the Ool at some point.
Wow, and this is just
UHL.
a small local stream. Khadi in
Yeah.
Marathi. Khad.
Ah, yes.
Amazing. This is where people go on vacations.
Yeah. But then talking of nature, I keep looking at the. I love sheeps, so just
Hmm.
watching the. Yeah.
Wow. These
Yeah.
must be domesticated, huh?
Yeah. And this is our place. This is the common meditation hall. Currently, it also acts as a workplace.
Yeah. Wow. I can see Om Mani Padme Hum. The,
Yeah.
it's interesting because we had all glass in our house, so we could see nature from everywhere. And that's what I noticed in this place too.
Yeah. It's the same stream again.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the rain from here. When it gets like foggy and misty, the clouds come inside the place.
That must inspire
Yeah.
you to write a lot because you like to write. Do you write poems too?
Yeah. 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 I do sometimes.
I used to write about at least 3 or 4 poems every week, and I shared them on social media every day, every week.
Ah. Okay.
The mountains, the rivers, big inspiration. The conifers.
Yeah. And sometimes I do a little bit of painting, like sumi ink. So, so I'm a as in, yeah, I don't have any professional skill in it, but I just love to paint sometimes. So I do a bit of drawing.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And this is the we also do into small scale publications. So these are the three publications we just latest ones which we came out with. This is
Oh,
from
okay.
Tiruvannamalai. Yeah,
Did you live in
writings from
Tiruvannamalai as well?
Arunachala. I haven't lived there, but I kind of go there every year from the last 4 5 years. So there's a winter trip always for 2 weeks to a month. That's on the cards. Whenever I get a chance, I go off.
Yeah, I've gone around this hill and also gone to the top of it. It's an amazing place. And I
Yeah.
keep asking
So
myself
Ramana
the question,
Maharshi,
who am I?
yeah. So Ramana Maharshi is my like guiding light for everything. I'll stop sharing my screen. Ah, okay.
Well, that was
Yeah.
quite a journey. Thanks, Zubin, to be able to show you a glimpse of your world, where you live and all that. You know,
Yeah.
this is the best we can do during the pandemic. We cannot fly into your
Yeah.
place. So,
Unfortunately, what
so we
we
can
can
fly
do,
on
but yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you have been a writer for a while, and I saw those three publications. Were they your publications? Did you write those
Yeah,
about
so
Arunachala?
I I write some, as in, yeah, writing is my expression. So I do write, but these particular books are more like collections of experiences from people. So I play more like the editor sort of a role, and uh, that particular book, Writings from Arunachala, is because Tiruvannamalai is a special place for me, and I basically reached out to anyone and everyone who I know and has a connection with Ramana Maharshi or the place and Arunachala in general, and and these are not writers or any like famous personalities or anything of that. So normal people like us all, and they send in their articles, and then I compile them together and then print it. Uh, so yeah, that's what I do. And the other one is called a Mystic Stripped Bear. This one was a autobiography of a person. He's in Australian. This guy Michael. He must be in his 60s. He comes to the mountains Himalayas every year and spends 3 months in a small cottage in the uh, snow. So he has written his small autobiography. So I helped him publish it. And yeah, so I take up small independent projects like this to work on publication.
Very nice. And it's like if this was your dream come true, that must be so much more satisfying than the startups of Bangalore, huh?
Yeah, as in both bring in a lot of meaning, but yeah, this the questions on work also, like I came full circle. I'll share an interesting story. So I kind of almost ran away from Bangalore and came to Himachal, where I set up this small place earlier with a few friends called Gumakkad. So we kind of agreed Bangalore and US. Yeah. So yeah, so I came from Bangalore to Gumakkad to Himachal and started this place, and so this was became it became like a small little it commune or a family of sorts, because there were these young people who had come in from the cities and just connected on this fact that they don't really know why they are there or what they're doing, but just trying to answer these questions that they have. And so over time, then Gumakkad, it was a beautiful experiment for 2 years, but then kind of the community, so to say, went their own ways. There were, of course, questions that arose because you are answering a lot of unknown questions. Like community living has been also a big experiment in some senses over here, because you live so intimately with people over a duration of time, and how do you so to say deal with it, the questions that come up, the issues that arise. And yeah, so Gumakkad was a beautiful experiment in that form, and it kind of fell apart in 2014. And why I brought it up was basically we it was a community place, and I ran away from Bangalore in some senses to come there to be away from tech. And now Gumakkad in 2018 is almost like it has the offices for Zomato and Swiggy in Dharamshala.
Oh
So it's like
no.
coming a full circle.
So they
So
brought the
it's hard
city
to
to the
tell.
village.
Yeah, yeah. So Dharamshala is a smart city now.
Oh no. My last trip to Dharamsala
So
was
it's
like
about,
6, 7 years ago. There was no Swiggy Zomato
yeah.
then. All the way to
No, no. Now
McLeodganj?
everything is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh no.
There are,
We're
yeah, it's
regretting
everywhere.
the introduction of technology in places which are otherwise very serene and very slow living, breathing and watching everything. Now, with the introduction of fast food and fast delivery
Yeah,
and high speed internet, that is fast changing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so then I now I'm at a neutral state where I think you cannot run away from things. You have to accept them what they are and just try and look within and see if you can sort it out in yourself instead of trying to change the external.
Yeah, that brings me to an interesting question. I mean, social workers, activists often want to change societies, change civilizations, change entire communities. But
Yeah,
I think the conclusion you reached, I reached it also at a lot longer. It took me a lot longer, which is instead of trying to change others and to fix communities, it's easier to change oneself. Even
yeah,
that's hard work, hard enough. Have you been able to,
yeah,
what
yeah,
changes have you
absolutely.
experienced in yourself through this whole process?
So earlier, the way I look at it right now is that when you're trying to change something in external, you are always resisting something. You are not flowing with life. Uh, this doesn't mean like activism is bad and you shouldn't stand for. I'm still all, as in I uh, maintain all the waste segregation and I'm very conscious about the environment and things like that. But uh, I realized that the best I can do for myself is that if I am at peace, if I am calm, then the kind of change that might bring about is significantly higher than any other way, because the world is so interconnected and uh, you just can't really change anything. If you tweak something and you think that this problem is solved, it will break 100 things in different directions in different places. So I try to do that, as in uh, the only realization for myself, what I came to is like that: don't resist, don't so to say revolt unnecessarily. Like anything that is creating disturbance within yourself, try to address that and see if you can naturally flow with activism as well. But if that is bringing peace to you, if you are calm doing it, then I should do it. So I came to a rule of thumb for me that for me the only thing that matters is peace. If I am peaceful doing something, I will do that. And so that is the change that I have seen. Earlier I was a big uh, proponent for deurbanization, that everyone should, cities should not develop like this and we should all move to the villages. And uh, but I realized that even so, like the Dharamshala turning into a city, I saw it in like I see like how cities must have formed, how Delhi must have formed, how Bangalore must have formed. So what is a village right now might be a city 50 years down the line. So that is not really a solution. So I thought, let's just stop resisting this and just watch and see how the universe is unfolding. And yeah, so that's the change I have seen in myself. Instead of resisting things, just flow with whatever your natural being is telling you.
I love memes sometimes. So, as they say, go with the flow. My latest favorite meme is glow with the flow. When you're totally in the
Ah,
flow, you start glowing. There's a element of serenity, calmness that you won't get
yeah,
when you're fighting. And again, by no means am I suggesting that activism is wrong or social work is wrong,
yeah,
but we have to find, we
absolutely.
have to activate only those things that we can do in the calmness of our heart. or the gentleness of our spirit. Otherwise, I'm burning from inside. I'm not trying to help others. Doesn't seem to work
Yeah,
very well, isn't it?
yeah,
So you
yeah,
mentioned
absolutely.
earlier that the teachings of Ramana Maharshi have been a guiding light for you. Can you elaborate on that? In
Mm,
what ways? I mean, he's one of my favorite teachers, authors,
yeah.
and I sit with one or two questions like, "Who am I?" Could you tell us a little bit more about how it changed your life?
Yeah. So for me, mm, yeah, words kind of stop when I think of Ramana Maharshi. But yeah, the first instant I saw his photo, his picture in a bookshop, and somehow like tears started rolling just there, and that hadn't ever happened for me with anything. And it was just this strong surge from within of something that like, it was such a very powerful intense moment for me. And that is when now I like to call it like a love affair. That is how it started. And at that time I actually, after knowing the question who am I and Ramana Maharshi for I think 3 or 4 years, I hadn't read any book or I didn't know anything. I just liked to look at that calm pace or whatever it represents, something deeper within. And uh, it's just something ignited within my heart. So that's when my relationship with Ramana Maharshi's teaching, his being, or you can even say like Advait, started in some ways. And it has been a very strong centering or guiding principles for everything that I do. And it's only over course of the last couple of years, I would say, where I actually picked up a book, like who am I, what is being written. And I also follow someone called Nochur Venkatraman. So he's a big devotee of Ramana Maharshi again, and he is in the body right now. He gives satsangs and talks mainly in Tamil, but also in English at the Ramana Ashram as well. And a lot of his talks are in YouTube. So I started listening to more and more of him, and he comes from a so he was giving commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita and chanting sloks from the time he was like 4 or 5. So for me, just the immensity of listening to that chants, and I don't really understand it intellectually from the mind what it means, but it physically changes something within me. It does something at a much deeper level. And that's when the inquiry of who am I started to, so to say, blossom, and what it does, what really it means. Because who am I, like 3 words, if you ask intellectually, it just, you hit a roadblock at some point here, because how much further can you go? But uh, and it's also talk like how people look at Ramana Maharshi sometimes in a way that it's a very intellectual path or a Gyani's path, but it's also so much of bhakti, so much of devotion, because there are stories of Ramana Maharshi also sitting and just crying out, crying for no reason whatsoever. So for me, this inquiry is a beautiful mixture of both these parts, or it's all just one in that way. So not just asking who am I intellectually, but uh, bringing this mind to the heart and then answering things from there. So that's how I look at who am I, and that's how it has helped me. And it's still a very long journey. I've just begun on this, but yeah. I will also have a, maybe I'll show the altar as well.
Yeah,
If
sure,
I,
sure.
so I'm Ramana Maharshi, and this is the Ramana Gita over here. So this is my altar where I said there's also Paramahansa Yogananda, and I also have a few masters here. I like this. There's Guru Nanak over here. There is Mingyur Rinpoche over here. There's Hazrat Sufi Inayat Khan. This is Ajahn Shah, and
Uh,
here there is Tenzin Palmo with Govind Lama. So I like to, and here is a beautiful photo of Ramana Maharshi again.
hmm.
So yeah, who am I is like means a lot to me.
Wow, wow. And I mean, thank you for clarifying that. A lot of people separate the path of the intellect from the path of love or devotion. And more
Yeah,
and more, I'm seeing that they're not really separate at all. Because when the intellect is
yeah,
exhausted, when we go deeper, we also go to that part which is seeking. The seeking for intellectual stimulation stops. You've been through Bangalore, you've been through
yeah,
Silicon Valley, I've been through the corridors of Google and Facebook multiple times. And guess
yeah,
what? A point comes where even Facebook had this group called Compassion Days at Facebook. And Google has a whole series called um, like really contemplative series. My friend Gopi Kalayo teaches yogasanas, and meditation almost every day at Google headquarters in Mountain View. So, because at the end of the day, when your intellect is exhausted and all the ideas and crazy things are gone, then what's left? There's a need for going deep
yeah,
down and finding that space of meaning, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And yeah, and again, even at Facebook, some of the executives there are very much involved in the whole compassion cultivation movement and kindness movement. So, which is great. And I'm just giving it as an example that we have this notion that intellect is everything. No, we go deeper down, then you have to find why am I even seeking intellect? Who is the one seeking intellect? So
yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about many different things. Is there any message you want to give
Yeah.
to people who are maybe considering slowing down from from the Bangalore, Silicon Valley to the Himalayan valleys or somewhere else? Do you have any suggestions for them? Any lessons learned?
Ah, okay. Um, Suggestions, or I wonder what suggestion to give other than just follow your really true calling, because uh, it's a very, very cliched, so to say, a statement that follow your heart and all of this, but we again try to look for answers always in the outside in a way that uh, what are books telling me, what is this and that telling me, but if we can all just in moments of doubt, in moments of confusion, if we can just sit quietly with ourselves, and I'm sure for all of us the true answer emerges from that space of silence and beauty. So stay with it, and yeah, we are all connected. In if I can help out in any way, if anyone wants to move to Himachal, if anyone wants to, yeah, I'm always available and open. So very happy to help with whatever little I know.
Wow. And for those who are from outside India, Himalaya means the abode or the home of snow, and Himachal means, I think, in the Achal of snow, right? What does Achal mean? In the
Achal, mm,
in
in
the
the
it's like it's in the almost like what you call in the lap of snow. So it's one of the
yeah,
most beautiful places in India. Very gentle, very serene, at least in the small villages. And now villages are becoming
yeah,
cities like Manali and Dharamsala, where the Dalai Lama,
Shimla,
where Holiness, the Dalai Lama's place is also becoming a city. So yeah, also the monks are looking for even slower places to go to. So again, thanks a lot, and we will share Zubin's contact information and my own. So if anybody has any questions, they can help. They can get some suggestions from Zubin, and it's a joy to talk to you, Zubin. I'm so grateful.
same here. Akash. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you, and please stay in touch. Namaste.
Yes, definitely. Namaste.